stop now.
Yeah, for sure.
Hi, welcome to Sex Talk with Susan, and we're super excited today because we have special friend, and it's a special moment, it's a special month, and we'll dive to it. But we have our guest, Barry and Amanda, and
My name is Kristen. I'm here to act as a moderator. And if anybody has any questions as we go through the stream, if they just want to throw them in the comment section, we will be able to ask our guests.
very good. So if you have any question, Kristen is here to help us and assist us to do that. So let's start with you, Barry. So tell me a little bit of what you do and why this month is really excited for us. It's exciting.
So my name is Barry. I'm the president of Pride Winnipeg. I've been with Pride Winnipeg now 10 years. And super excited this year because it's the second ever Fierté Canada Pride, so the national pride in Winnipeg that brings in a 2.5-day human rights conference, additional stages at the Forks, and this year the special touch is we actually have performers represented from every province in Canada.
Oh, wow. Wow, all over Canada.
Yep.
Wow, this is huge. And you haven't done this previous to COVID, have you?
Previous to COVID, no. So the last event we had was our standard Pride Winnipeg event in 2019, and then for 2 years we had to go virtual. So this is the first in-person event in Manitoba, the first in-person event basically in Canada, and with the first Pride since COVID lockdowns.
Okay, so you hear that if you haven't gone out for an event, this is also a chance to come out as well. Very good. So what about you, Amanda? What do you do?
So I am from Pride Winnipeg. Of course, I'm going to say that, right? I am the vice president of programming. I started with Pride about 11 years ago now. Started from the bottom as a volunteer, worked my way through to a security director, and then here I am today with Barry. So we're really excited for Pride to happen. You know, it's going to be a good one this year. It's something we've been waiting for a while. We were supposed to have this Canada Pride in 2020, but because of COVID, it really didn't work out that well. So we're very happy to be finally doing it this year, and hopefully without a hitch.
Hopefully we can do that, and people are back to doing normal stuff. So it's good that you have this event and it's prepared for us. So tell us why, I was talking with Scott, our producer, and he was very excited, and I'm excited to have both of you because this is really an important event, but also a community as well. So tell us why it's important for us to be an ally. Tell us more, what do you want the Winnipeggers to know?
So a lot of people may not even know the history that it is with Pride. So 35 years ago, it started as a protest where there were individuals with bags over their heads walking down the street because if they had been outed or someone knew who they were, they could have been fired from their job.
Only 30 years ago?
35 years ago.
35 years.
They could have been fired from their job. They could have been assaulted, murdered. There were so many things going on 35 years ago where fast forward to today, we're doing a lot better, but there's still lots to do. And the big thing is we need to make sure that we're giving space for those community members, the socially excluded groups that still don't have the equal rights. So my predecessor back on our 30th anniversary on his statement said, the L and the G of the acronym have close to equal rights, not 100%, but they're a lot better off than the rest of the acronym. It's up to those who identify as the L and the G to take their privilege and their power and help build up the rest of the acronym and the rest of the community so that one day there's equal rights for all.
And the acronym that you are saying is 2S LGBTQ and communities.
2S LGBTQ plus.
Plus
Yeah.
community.
That's
So
the
that's what
community.
we are saying. LG was.
So back in the days when the movement first started in 1987, it was GLBT, and then it moved to LGBT during the women's movement, and then the acronym has progressed over the years to the current acronym that is 2S LGBTQ plus. And we put the 2S, so Two-Spirit is first, and that is something that based with all of our community partners, our Indigenous partners, and our Indigenous communities, that's something that's been very important. And I know Amanda can touch base when it comes to, as far as making sure that we give space for those different community groups so that everyone has a voice.
And Amanda, you talked about creating space without taking over. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, What we see with a lot of allies is that they want to come in and they want to kind of help be at the forefront of what our Pride movement is. But, oftentimes when this happens, a lot of allies might not know that they are inadvertently taking up space on our behalf. So it's important for allies to recognize that you can be a good ally, but you don't always have to be standing in front of us, or you're not taking up that space. So it's just, it is important that we recognize that, we're there for fun, we're there to be who we want to be, and we want to be able to showcase that without having also other people maybe not recognizing that they might have their own discomforts about what's going on at a parade, but it's about showcasing who you are and who you want to be. So just really being there for us and showing that it's okay to be who you want to be.
It's okay to support that. Well, as you were talking, an image just came in mind about even my closest friend who can walk freely to my house. They still have to have that respect that it is my house. They don't come and rearrange my photos and do everything. I don't like this, I'm going to put mine. We are friends.
For sure, exactly.
I'll be like, I love you, but no.
Don't touch my things.
Don't touch my thing, exactly. So I think that's what you're talking about, that you can come, it's a house, but also to respect.
Yes, absolutely.
And to not take over. That's a very good image. So earlier on, we talked about if there's a mom there, there's a dad there where their children are transitioning or they're coming out, they don't know what to do, they don't know how to have this conversation with their children, how would you support them or how would you advise them on what to do?
So we do have, so we receive questions almost daily through our info@Pride Winnipeg email address. We work very closely with Rainbow Resource Center, CIRC Clinic, Sunshine House, various different community partners where we can send that question or send that information over to those different groups. So Rainbow Resource Center is a great space for education and resources. They do have over 30 different community groups that meet out up there. They have a newcomers group, they have a trans youth group, they have so many different groups that are there to provide support for the community. But they also have they have a parental side where, like you said, if someone is coming out and the parent doesn't know how to be supportive, there's education classes there. There's many great education resources out there. And a lot of them, if you go to Clinic or CIRC or Rainbow Resource Center, they have it right on their website, right on all of their social media feeds, so that there is that resources there right at individuals' fingertips.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is saying we don't have resources is not enough, or I don't know what to do is not enough. They are saying if you don't, go seek those resources. They're
Correct.
out there.
Go seek those resources, but
Go
also
seek
the resources, but also some people, the biggest advice I could give from when I came out years ago was my parents were, how can I be supportive?
Who did you come to first, mom or dad?
At the time, I wrote a letter to all of them. My dad had passed away, so I wrote a letter on Christmas Eve. They all opened it on Boxing Day, and I was gone for a week on holidays. So I said, call me a week later. But
Deal with this.
my mom and I share the story all the time, and she hates that I share it. But when I came out as bisexual, she called me a week later, and she said, I have some questions. I said, okay, sure, Mom, what is it? She's like, well, can I tell the family? And I thought that meant sure, if they ask, go ahead. No, she actually outed me to my entire family in a matter of 24 hours.
Okay.
And then she asked me to explain what bisexual was because she had Googled it and she got some really strange videos. And I was like, great, my mother's watching porn. I was like, no. So from there, it was a great resource. And as allies or as parents, it's just be there and let the individual know that you support them, you love them no matter what. I have a 90-year-old Mennonite grandfather who doesn't understand that I'm engaged, but he supports me no matter what.
Yeah, and I think even at that, I think a lot of parents, that's kind of a shell shock almost that, my child is coming out as gay or trans or whatever it may be, and they might not know how to respond right away, or they might have their own discomforts. But, just allowing your child, your loved one, anyone, to just take that space to let you know, maybe you might not, maybe don't react right away to something if you don't know how to react. I know I've heard a lot of stories from different community members where they've come out and they've had really bad reactions from their family. thankfully, I was very lucky that my family was very supportive of me, but not everybody has that that supportiveness in their life. So if you do have any kind of discomfort or reservations about kind of what you're hearing, you know, just maybe take some time before reacting to something, because your child is always going to remember that initial reaction of, you know, what's on your face, what your personality or what your body language is. So take some time to step back and just allow them the space to be themselves and to let you know how they're feeling. So,
because you may not say anything, but your face expression really speaks loud.
And I know that's a bit hard to say out loud.
But also to this day, like, there are still individuals that come out to this day that they're kicked out of their house, they're disowned by their family, there's stuff like that. So as community members, we need to be there to provide support and resources to those individuals when that happens. Some people, like Amanda said, her family was very supportive. Mine became very supportive, where the next year my mom wanted to walk in the Pride Parade hanging a big Pride flag, and the next day later I was like, okay, like, baby steps. But we had two good families, but there are so many within our community that don't have that chance, and it's heartbreaking when you see the suicide rates of people who are coming out, and the depressions and homelessness, and it's just it's heartbreaking, because to think that parents look at that and say, I can't love my child because of this, I could never imagine that.
Very heartbreaking when there's that disconnect for someone being who they are, being the authentic self, and not being accepted for who they are.
And I think that's why it's hard for a lot of people to come out, because they hear these stories about people not being as accepting. So, you know, it's difficult.
And as a therapist, I see the other side when people are not coming out, and how damaging it is to your psyche.
Yes.
Your whole being, your spirit. Like we were talking about, just the way you show up in the world, feeling that you're not living the authentic self.
Absolutely.
And not because you don't want to, it's because there's no the support system. So early on, we're talking about why did we invite both of you, or why is this month so important? For those reasons. For those reasons, to still knowing that the work is still not done.
Yeah.
That of supporting and becoming an ally.
And like like we always say, Pride isn't just 1 month or 1 week. Pride is 365 days a year. You need to be there to be supportive. To be an ally, you don't just need to raise a Pride flag during Pride Week. You need to let your family know, your neighbors, the community know that you're there to support them every day of the year.
So it's not just this month.
Correct.
It's every day. You hear that? It's not just this, it's every day. Because our families and our friends, they don't just leave the authentic self as a Pride individual just for a month. This is every day. This is every day. And you mentioned about how to become an ally. How can people, if someone is watching out there and is saying, okay, I want to be an ally and I don't know how, whether it's baby step as your mother did, how would that look like?
Allyship is so different for different individuals. It's something as simple as having those discussions with your children ahead of time and just saying, you know what, you may have someone at school who has 2 moms or 2 dads or a different relation or a different family, and how to have those discussions. It can be as good as Pride Month, having a Pride flag there and just going to your neighbors and saying, you know what, we appreciate you, we're there for you if you ever need anything. It's those baby steps. Like, there's so many different things. Like, I know, what else? There's so many things, really.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, because it looks different for everyone. I mean, you know, I think as a community as a whole, we need to start incorporating a lot more, you know, gender and sexuality based education and into literature in schools, and to kind of normalize what this looks like, because, you know, growing up I didn't get exposed to any of that. So I learned my own sexuality through just the connections that I make in the community, but you don't see that in schools. So we have to learn to kind of normalize people who are different. And it's hard to say, because there's a lot of things that we can do, but there's a lot of things that we aren't doing. But I don't know.
And one thing we can
It's a good
do
question.
And to normalize. Actually, I was talking with my daughter earlier on, and I was asking for her opinion. I'm saying, what do students? She's 14, and she was saying it's not a big deal for them. It's like there's that inclusion. Like they are very comfortable with one another. I think it's us parents. I think it's more older generation that really needs to reach out.
Sure.
I love children because they're adaptable. They adapt quickly than adult, and to be able to offer out these resources, and also to check out as a therapist, why does this trigger me so much? Why is this a problem for somebody? My kid, my daughter, my husband, my wife, living the authentic self. Yeah, so to be able to.
That's the thing. Like hate is a learned behavior. Yeah. It's not something you're inherently born with. Yeah. So it's teaching your children how to love anyone and everyone.
Yeah.
It's the big thing about education and resources. It's educating your children, educating the next generation. Where I know when I came out 13 years ago, if I had walked into a bar with my partner, I still would have been assaulted to this day if I would have walked into a straight bar. Now it's more socially acceptable. It's not perfect, but it is getting better.
It's getting better.
It's getting better, and it's like, it's just, you see so many things. Like allyship has grown with the next generation, but like you said, it's those parents, those grandparents, the older generation that needs to educate themselves on what has changed.
Yeah.
And even within the queer community, we need to constantly educate ourselves, where we need to make space for the next generation, but also respect the steps that the previous generations took to get us to where we are today. You don't want to forget your past. Your past has helped build you to the future. So recognizing those who helped the founding blocks of where we are today, but also making sure that those who are the new individuals or the next generation, they're getting the same support, and work together to bridge both those communities.
Well said. I like that. Like not forgetting, and if the whole system can work well with that respect we're talking about. I love, Amanda. Like, what comes up for you as we're talking?
So I was wanted to go back to what you said right when you started, that you started as a volunteer, and you started as a volunteer as well. So it's just the idea of starting in something and then like building and becoming a big part of that community. I feel like that happens for a lot of people, right? You were talking about meeting someone that worked with the organization years ago, and he kind of brought you in. And can you just speak to the sense of community and how it builds around like the event?
So the sense of community, thinking back 10 years ago, I started as a volunteer driver, and a huge shout out at that time, it was JD Francis from a radio station who said, at the time I was a volunteer board member for Geo's Club and Bar, and he was like, hey, I need a driver for Pride. And 10 years later, I'm sitting as the chair. So it's that volunteerism and that drive where people ask us, it takes 5,000-6,000 volunteer hours a year to put on the festival. This year is no different, and that's all volunteer, no paid staff, all volunteer. And people sit there and look at, once you get into the executive levels, look at the two of us and say, what the heck is wrong with you guys? You're doing 30 hours a week volunteer, and then you're doing 40-hour work week. Are you nuts? And then we sit back sometimes and say, is it worth it? And then you have someone in like 2018, the first elementary school GSA was at the parade. A bunch of kids came running up, hugging myself and one of our board members at the time, and said, because of you, we can be who we are today. So you're crying right before the parade starts. That's why we do it. It's just seeing everybody having a blast, or hearing stories of like, even our board members as it leads up to Pride Week, you hear the stories of, okay, I was out at this bar tonight and got absolutely trashed or whatever they're celebrating before Pride kicks up. But it's that drive, and that's seeing that.
I think one of the most important, one of the most important things for me during Pride, in the midst of a lot of chaos and just frustration, and things might not always be going well, and you've been working so hard at this to try and make everything great. A thing that I do is I go out to the back of the stage and I look over at all of these people who are so happy to just be there and live authentically. And then I have a good cry for about 10 minutes, and then we get back to it. But it's just seeing that sense of community that really just kind of drives the volunteerism that we have with us. And I know when I first started Pride, I didn't go to any gay bars. I didn't go to, I didn't know a lot of gay people. It was just something that we weren't exposed to really. And I ended up with Pride because a friend was doing a school project in university, and he had said, you know, why don't you come join Pride? There's a few things that I think you would be really good at. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. And since then, I've found this amazing sense of community, and I just want to be able to give back to the people who have always been there to support me in my journey, and be able to just give to the people of everywhere.
Who was the person in university?
Ryan.
Oh, Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how I ended up here 10, 11 years later.
And you're giving back like
Yeah.
that, and I love that. I love
Yeah.
the joy of it, seeing other people and making the way
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
the next generation. And that 30 hours volunteerism
Yeah.
to say a
Like
week. Yeah.
all of us are off next week as board members. We are all taking our paid holidays from work to be at the site next week setting it up. So I'm off for a week and a half, my vacation time. Amanda's off for a week. A lot of our board members are taking personal time off to run the festival, get it set up, and get it ready to run. And that's a lot of stuff for volunteerism where we don't get the chance to really celebrate during Pride because we're running it. So we try to go to like Twin Cities Pride in Minneapolis the end of June to celebrate, or as being a member of both FCP or Canada Pride, and then also a member of Interpride, we try to go to those conferences every once in a while. So I know in 2019 we were in Athens for a conference for a couple of days, so a few of us got to go there. There's one in Guadalajara, Mexico this year. So we get a chance to socialize and share ideas, or permanently borrow them, as we say, from other prides around not just Canada, but from around the world. Because it's interesting at the world stage, when you're sitting down with prides from around the world that all volunteer, what happens here in Canada isn't the same as what's happening in Europe or Australia. And you can share resources and share ideas. And that you come back with such a sense of self when you come back after those events, where you come back with like a ton of ideas, you write a report, you report it to the board, and it's a great way to be able to learn. We go to these things throughout the year to educate ourselves to be better.
Yeah. That's good. So to be able to put, we started our session here, our show here, by talking about what steps can you take, because you as an organizer have taken a lot of step and a lot of energy. So putting that picture on my Facebook, I have that, the rainbow, so it's a form of, I'm an ally. So knowing that you may not spend 30 hours, which would be good if you could, but you can do other things to be an ally. And also like talking about how you came out, because for me, I came out as a bi woman by writing a book. So I'm like, my friends will read my book and find out. But people take different journey of coming out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I sent a text message to my parents when I was away at a friend's house. So it's like, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm ready. Yeah, it was good.
So, and it's all welcome. There's no one way of doing it. So if someone is out there and is wondering, how do I come out, just to know what works for you and to take that step.
Yeah.
So somebody might ask, like, we've come a really long way. Why is it still important? Why is there still a fight? We were talking before the show started kind of about how organizations that have the ability to give money to festivals and causes, sometimes they don't throw that money your way necessarily, because you don't fall under a very strict set of definitions. So what might you say to someone that they're like, why is Pride still important?
So Pride is still important because there isn't equality for all. We know there isn't equality for all. As a bisexual man, there are still people in the community that will run up to me and be like, well, you're bi, why can't you pick a side? And that's still happening in 2022. That shouldn't be happening. And that shows there isn't equality for all. There are so many of our QPOC individuals, our Indigenous individuals, that face barriers day after day still, and there is no equality where, as a volunteer organization, we need funding to keep what we're doing, keep our programming live, keep what we need to do, where unfortunately a lot of larger organizations either can't donate to us because, oh, we're not a charity. So they want that proverbial tax receipt. or we have provincial funding. We don't receive provincial funding because according to the eyes of the province, we still fall as a political party or a political movement like it was in the 80s. The federal government still considers Pride a political movement, but in the federal eyes, we still get money from arts, culture, and heritage. In the province, we don't qualify for the arts, culture, and heritage funding because according to them, we don't fit under any of the three. And as chair of Pride, one of my biggest things I do is, sadly I have to play politics, but it's we have to work with our large businesses, our federal levels where it's sad, it's 35-year anniversary. We received no provincial funding in 35 years. We received city funding and federal funding, but 35 years, nothing from the province. And it's like, well, you want us to grow, you're talking about tourism and bringing people in. We bring such a huge economic imprint to this province for a week. There are 18 prides in Manitoba. We have more prides per capita than any other province.
So benefiting the whole community.
Benefiting the whole community. You're benefiting the entire community, but because we don't check a box, we can't get that funding. And that is so archaic. And it is so annoying where Amanda and I'll have to call Amanda sometimes to just vent because I'll be like, okay, I talked to this person. I'm like, okay, I need to vent before I say something unprofessional somewhere.
It's true.
And vice versa. We'll have those
With a good
conversations.
reason, it seems like it, yeah.
Or you see businesses that come up during Pride Month that will just be, they'll be more of a, they'll put up a Pride flag and they'll be like, oh, Pride promotion. All the money's going to Pride Winnipeg. And we're just like, what money? We haven't seen anything. So you call them out where it's pink washing. So there are still people going after the proverbial pink dollar, as it was referred to back in the 90s and the 2000s, where you see community, or you see big businesses saying, we're diverse and inclusive. Well, okay, where's your diversity and inclusion plan? How do you have that? Pride 10 years ago had to take funding from anybody we could get it from because we were a small organization. Now we're at a point where we can look at a business and say, if you don't have a D&I policy, you don't have an inclusion, you don't have equal rights for your employees, we don't want your money. And to be able to sit back now, 35 years later, to be that big of an organization to do that is a huge accomplishment for us on the board, especially because we now can hold those people accountable without being like, well, we needed that $1,000 to put on the parade, or we needed that $1,000 to hire an extra performer. We don't have to do that anymore.
Absolutely.
So those red tapes can be very frustrating, especially when I say this. I can see you laughing.
Frustrating.
Beyond.
Yeah. Frustrating is a word where it's, sadly, as president of the board, and even with our executive, like Amanda's VP, there are certain times where we have to play politics, where we have to go in front of the premier's office and hear this or hear that and be like, whatever, and then just move on. Where the mayor's office has been completely different. Mayor Bowman has been an ally for 8 years. In 2018, he made the announcement on the steps of the ledge saying, as long as I'm the mayor, you guys will have Portage Avenue. We had been booted off of Portage Avenue by the previous mayor because we weren't a big enough parade. But now we're the biggest parade. We're bigger than the Santa Claus Parade, and I will brag to the Santa Claus Parade every year and say we are bigger. It's a giant contest. But it was because of that. So now with Mayor Bowman stepping down, the community actually is concerned. They're just like, what is the next mayor going to do? Are we going to be back? Are we going to be shunt back to the side streets of downtown? Are we really going to be put back in the closet? And those are feedback I receive as chair and our executive receive, where we have to have those tough discussions with politics or political leaders or big business, where our biggest sponsor has been amazing. They've been with us forever, but we have so many small businesses that support us with in-kind donations of volunteer hours or things like that. But to get any bigger, we need paid staff. We need an executive director. I can't, our board, we can't keep doing 30, 35 hours a week.
Jobs.
We have other full-time jobs. I've got a wedding to plan next year. Like, I'm supposed to be getting married next year. Amanda's my best man. I'm like, I got to plan a wedding. We need an ED.
Yeah.
So it's those things where we need that core funding in order to hire that next person and build the organization. But without funding from the province and even actual funding from the city, it's never going to happen.
What are some things that people could keep in mind with an upcoming election in the fall? Like, what would you say watch out for or look at?
Watch out for, so something that Pride has done many of the years is Pride, as every Pride in Canada, we have to be nonpartisan. So that is part of the Non-for-Profit Act. So we have to stay as a nonpartisan. We will always ask for anybody running in the next mayor, we always ask the same 5 or 7 questions. Community comes together and asks the questions. We ask them and then post their answers publicly on our website and our social media. So hold those political parties accountable for what they answer. And if they don't answer, we will physically say they did not answer or they refuse to answer.
And definitely education and educating yourself on what political parties are doing for the community is so important. And I think a lot of people will blindly vote for someone because they're looking at who's going to be the majority minority government, but you have to look at who's going to make the real change for the community as a whole. So it's definitely a lot of education on that.
And especially for mayor, who's not going to take the last 8 years and wipe it away? Who's going to take it to the next generation? Who's going to work with not just us with Pride, but all of the community partners?
And that's always our fear is, you know, we have had a lot of progress within Pride over the last years, but you never know how quickly that might be taken away. Like this is exactly what's going on in the States, you know, with women's rights. It's just government has so much control, and it worries us every time there's any kind of election because we don't know what the next person's going to bring.
The next person will be with
Yeah.
them online.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking about earlier on, was it yesterday or something, that we were talking about, it's a matter of human rights, and someone may not see it that way, but if your kid is really at that point of having thoughts of suicide because of lack of support system, like it is a matter of a human right, or a friend or co-worker, or your employee too. It could be your employee or employer. Like it's really a human rights issue.
There needs to be more education and more support for the queer community. There is very few resources out there for trans counseling and queer counseling. There needs to be more of that where Manitoba Health covers it. And it's not something that a community group has to cover and then get it paid back 3 months later from the federal government. Or if someone is transitioning in the province, it shouldn't take them 8 months to get the paperwork back and forth from the province, so they have to still use their dead name at their job. That isn't fair to those individuals.
8 months there.
8 months. Right now, it's 6 to 8 months to get your paperwork changed. Like, it is just ridiculous because the additional steps, like, yes, COVID has played a part of it where everybody's working from home, but for those even changing their gender marker on their driver's license or their birth certificate or stuff like that, it's great that they've done it, but it's such an old archaic process to get it changed that people just look at it and say it's nuts, or the costs associated with it. Years ago, it used to be $1,000 for someone to change to someone who was transitioning to change their name and everything. It was $1,000. Now it's still $300-400, but that's not money covered by the province. So you have to pay MPI to change your driver's license. You have to pay Manitoba Health for this, and everybody, it's $10 here, $20 there. That's not covered by anybody. So someone who is transitioning, there's a ton of funding that is needed that isn't covered still, and it's ridiculous. We're in 2022.
Which add to financial stress now on top of it.
You add the financial stress, which can add to depression, anxiety, things like that.
How traumatic it can be just to, you know, have a license with the wrong gender on it. Like, how is that fair?
And every time someone is pronouncing someone, it's like someone calling you wrong name, wrong gender every day. Afterwards, it really becomes very toxic for sure.
And it's toxic when you look at like the Bank Act. So look at the Canadian Bank Act. If someone works for a bank and is transitioning, because of the Bank Act, unless they have the proper paperwork, they have to use their dead name because it's a Bank Act signed from 1970 something. So federal government, provincial government, city government need to change those policies to allow, as someone is transitioning, to use their proper name. They shouldn't have to use their dead name until a piece of paper shows up. And that's the stuff that frustrates me personally, just having seen it and dealt with it. It's annoying where it's like, you gotta be kidding me, we gotta wait for this, this is stupid.
Yeah.
It's
just stupid.
It's just like it gets stupid and I'm just like, fine, whatever. It's just like.
Very good. And we just one more thing before we go to the fun part. The fun part. I want to hear about the fun part of Pride too. Let's talk about tokenism. We talked about a little bit what you mean, what I mean by tokenism, but I want for you both of you to explain, and how can businesses be an ally without providing that tokenism?
You can start that one off.
So for tokenism, the big thing you have to think about is if you're an employer and you know you have an out queer employee, don't constantly tap on that person's shoulder saying, hey, can you check this post? Or hey, what's this? Are we using the right acronym? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? Because to that individual, it could feel like tokenism. You may have the best intention saying, as a business, I'm showing my support because I want to get the right information from you. Have that conversation first and let them know instead of, oh, can you do this? Can you do this? Because then it can be tokenism. So many businesses will be like, oh, we support Pride Month and here's the spotlight on the one out queer person we know. Well, there could be 20 other queer people in the business that aren't comfortable being out because they're just like, oh, if I come out, work's going to use me to check off a diversity and inclusion box, so I'm going to be used to check off a box. So,
and there's no follow-up or opportunity. I'm saying that because as a black person as well, I have seen with these institutions, schools, where, oh, we are taking photo, they take a photo, but you never hear from them again. An opportunity until you're just called when the photos are on. And then you're like, that's me, but I have never been in that group. What is it?
And it's, you want to make sure that you're not like, okay, a business is like, oh, here's our queer person. They do a spotlight during Pride Month. And it's like, here you go. And then
never hear from you until
never
next
hear
year,
from you again.
next
like,
year.
Never hear from you again. And it's like, great, thanks. Or it'll be, like you said, there's certain, like, someone will take a photo and then 3 years later, they'll merge you in with something else saying, oh, here's what we did 3 years ago to support. And it's like, I wasn't there.
Yeah, and like the bad thing with tokenism is that there are a lot of companies that do this, but they're also not being supportive of those tokenized employees. So, you know, you don't have benefits that help with gender reassignment. Like, there's a lot of things that are missing there, but you are still going to use them. So just don't do it.
That's the problem. I think when you talk about tokenism is the other person feeling used.
Yes,
that's the issue.
Yeah, and Amanda touched on it perfectly when it came to those who are transitioning. The surgery, the recovery time in surgery isn't covered on a lot of provincial health plans. It's not covered by the province. It has to be long-term disability or something from the employer. There's only 2 major companies in Canada, bank-wise, that cover it for someone transitioning. For someone else, they have to take 6 months off of work unpaid and claim unemployment or EI even if they qualify for EI, or they might have to move back home or rely on their partner for the income, which then puts stress in the household. So how do you do those things? And it goes back to, like Amanda was saying, those businesses, if you're going to say you're supportive of your entire staff and the community as a whole, you need to build that into your benefit plan.
Prove it.
It's like, prove it.
Yeah. Tangible thing. Accessibility for sure. So Pride Parade is coming on. So what can we expect to see?
So for this year, for the Pride Parade, happy to say we have 118 floats. We actually have more walking groups this year than floats, which is great because it goes with our environmental sustainability plan.
And there will be food and stuff?
So that for the parade, it'll end up, so it starts, so the rally starts at 10 o'clock Sunday morning at the west lawn this year of the Legislative Building due to the construction on the main part. And then from there, the parade starts right at 11, goes down Portage Avenue and ends in the lot, we call it lot P117, but it's lot right across from Gold Eye Stadium, and from there, walk to the festival.
Okay.
The festival is amazing this year. We have 3 stages. We have a kids stage. We have our main stage, a Canada stage. We have 24, 25 food trucks. I've lost track.
Too many.
We have like 20,000 square feet of fencing coming in, 200 toilets, 30 or 300 and some odd liters of hand sanitizer. Like, you see the stuff coming in, and it's a lot of work to put on that infrastructure for a really great event. We have 2 beer gardens this year. We have our queer beer line that has been outselling. It's the highest selling beer we've ever produced in the 13 years we've done it.
Absolutely.
Very good.
So on it well. Good job.
So could you look at our audience and tell them when is that?
So Pride Weekend is June 4th and June 5th, and the parade is June 5th. So the festival is open from noon till 7 both days. The kids zone is open noon till 5. And we have Pride Mart. Something really cool about Pride Mart this year is by working with the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce, the LGBT plus Chamber of Commerce, and Pride Winnipeg to come together to put it on, we have half artisan shops and half hiring. So companies now, they're saying, hey, we do have D&I people, we do have a D&I policy. They're turning Pride Mart into a job fair. Where better to find the best talent in this city than during Pride Weekend? They may not want to do an interview live if they've come out of the beer gardens, but but it's great to see, like, the city of Winnipeg has their diversity people. Birchwood Automotive Group that provides our vehicles. They're doing a hiring fair there. So it's nice to see that these companies that have really for years spoken and said, we are a diverse company to work for. Where's the best place? And it's great to see that progress, even something small like that happen at the festival.
And that's a very good idea if somebody has a business out there to consider how they can participate in the next coming Pride events.
Yeah, and it's that, and it's like, I do know for the first time ever this year, we have a community zone, so we work with our community partners to do that. We are very happy, so we've partnered with the Winnipeg Humane Society this year, where we actually have pets for adoptions, and then they came back this week and asked, can we have a bigger tent so we can bring puppies?
Oh,
So they're gonna bring puppies, and we just said, puppies, as long as the board members can go for emotional support dogs throughout the weekend, we're good.
Oh,
Needed.
that's fun.
Yeah, so it's super, it's those things that, it's gonna be one heck of a festival. Like, we see 35, 40,000 people a year. Canada Pride, we're thinking 80, 90,000 people are gonna be here by what we see in hotel bookings and everything. And that's
So
also.
that's the place to be.
That's the place to be,
That's
and
the
we've
place
also
to
done
be.
it safely, knowing that COVID is still around. We still know, like, we're at 235,000 square feet. We've expanded huge for social distancing to make sure that that's there. If our beer gardens is 2,000 person capacity, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to put 2,000 people in that beer tent. We're going to do social distancing. We're going to make sure that's there. There's going to be hand sanitizer available for anybody. There's going to be masks available should anybody need masks. Like, Amanda, before she took over as VP, Amanda ran safety and security and built it to where it is now. And you've got tons of stuff with your security team, like with Sam and Daniel. It's like security and safety is number one at this site, always.
And that's good to know.
You did talk about the amazing person power that it takes to put on something like this. So if there are people watching and they still want to get involved, can they still do that?
We're always looking for volunteers. Right now, I would laugh. So one of the volunteers we need right now is we need volunteer drivers, because I used to be logistics. So we need a couple volunteer drivers to pick up performers, do shuttles. Vehicles are provided. We just need a physical driver. I believe we are still looking for volunteers for the parade to help marshal the parade and help the volunteer check-in tent, things like that. And not only that, we need volunteers year round. We need board members, we need coordinators, we need team leads that are helping to build those areas. We're normally a board of 16, and unfortunately due to COVID, we're now a board of 9. We have lots of roles to fill, so right now that board of 9 is doing what 16 people normally do year round.
So we will take anyone. You are welcome, no matter when you want to start.
And so, like, if people are interested, they just can go to a website, and is there a volunteer
If you go
form?
to pridewinnipeg.com, there's a volunteer form right on the website, and if you go to current board opportunities, there's there, and you can always just send an email to either hr@pridewinnipeg.com or volunteer@pridewinnipeg.com, and our volunteer and HR teams will reach out.
No, even if you're there on the weekend and
Yeah.
you see someone with a board shirt, just come say hi to us.
Nice.
We'll have a conversation for sure.
Yeah, tell them what color our shirts are so they can't miss us.
Pink. Bright pink. Safety pink is, I think, what the
Their
actual...
safety pink is the color, so you can't miss us.
Safety pink. We all love that.
So there you hear, there's no reason not to participate, there's no reason not to attend, whether you want to enjoy it, whether you want to help, whether you want to contribute to financially, that all this is welcomed.
Absolutely.
So do you have any more questions, Christy?
I'm not so much questions, just a comment. I really like what you said about the hiring fair that's going to be taking place this year, because as someone who likes to come and just check out the festivities, it's going to be really neat for me as a consumer to look at these businesses and be like, okay, like, I know that you align with like the values that I have as well. So I might be more inclined to do business with businesses that I meet at the festival.
Yeah, and
The ones that walk the walk, you know?
Yeah, and we really cool. It was because when we did the community zone, we moved Pride Mart in between the two stages, so it's actually within the trees on Parks Canada land. So it is its own little area. So if someone did want to interview someone on the spot, there is quiet space to do it. So it'll be very interesting to see how Pride Mart has expanded over the years and what's in store for it next year and the year after. The LGBT Chamber ran it for many years. They ran out of volunteer resources, so did we. So we decided as 3 major organizations, let's come together and put it on. The Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce just launched their Code Collective, which was their D&I collective. They had their first annual conference, Flag Raising Friday. Sadly, we couldn't be there because of other priorities. But they have those mandates where they're now holding small businesses accountable and the 2,300 Winnipeg Chamber members accountable.
Very good.
I do have just one quick question from the Facebook stream here. Going back to some of the open roles that you might have within the organization, what are some of the committee roles Larissa would like to know?
So committee roles, currently we need a parade director, parade coordinator, logistics director.
Because we don't want to do it all.
Yeah. the funny thing is the roles I'm about to mention are currently the roles Amanda and I are filling because we both sat in them over the years. So right now I'm currently the chair, the president, logistics, parade, and marketing.
That's
all
too
in
many
one.
hats.
That's too many hats.
Far too many.
But we need marketing team. Marketing is one of our biggest things. We need marketing, marketing parade. We need some festival coordinators. Logistics is a big one because logistics is year-round operations. For vice presidents, we're still waiting. We still need a vice president of marketing, our vice president of operations, and yeah, everything's on our website. There's, I think, 20 some odd different roles that we would bring on year-round, from directors, vice presidents to coordinators, that we constantly are looking for.
And the thing I've always loved about Pride is that, if there isn't any roles that maybe you're not comfortable with, we will always try and carve out a role that might be better suited to you. So we want to be inclusive of anybody and everybody. So
No, and that's true, because
marketing isn't everyone's thing.
marketing, no, and when we both started with Pride, it was marketing and community engagement were together, and we split it apart. Or when I started, logistics didn't even exist. They created the logistics team at the time when I was a logistics coordinator, and they said, hey, this actually needs to be a board role.
You're like, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but same thing with like community engagement. Community engagement was just always a director role. It wasn't a VP role. And we said, no, it needs to be one of the officers of the organization. So if you don't see a role that's on the website that fits you, send us your resume, let us know what you're kind of interested in, and we can create a role. We created sustainability, like as an organization, we'll create a role to fill that need, because we're not perfect. There might be a need missing that those different portfolios aren't covering.
That's very good to know that there's a place for everybody, like
Absolutely.
with whatever skills and talent that they bring to
Absolutely.
that. So Amanda, what is the last word that you would like to tell our audience? Apart from seeing you on that day, on the 5th.
I don't know. I'm really excited for this week to happen, the next weekend to happen. I really hope that everybody is able to get out. There's something at the festival, at the parade, for everyone to do, regardless of your age. So we're just really excited to have everybody, and I hope you show up.
Very good.
Speaking of exciting, I think you had an exciting announcement for us.
Yes, oh my goodness, yeah.
So we did hold back an announcement. So we did confirm. So as everyone has seen, our Canada stage headliner is Priyanka from Canada's Drag Race. So we have confirmed that she will be doing a meet and greet on Pride Sunday. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it into a contest. So we're going to be doing, on Tuesday, we're going to launch it through our Facebook, our Instagram, and our Pride Winnipeg app. And we're going to offer 30 meet and greets, and we're going to split it evenly. So there is 15 meet and greets for anyone over the age of 18 and 15 meet and greets for anybody under the age of 18. So keep an eye on that. We will make sure that we're following all rules. So if someone is 14, their parent will be allowed to be there, that type of stuff. So keep an eye on that. We wanted to make sure we announce that here first, and it'll be going to the media tomorrow. So.
Yay. Oh my goodness, I like it. I love it. Thank you so much. That sounds really fun.
It'll be a ton of fun. I'm looking forward to Pride, and honestly, the biggest thing we will always say for board members, if you're out there that weekend, you're having a good time, or even if you have feedback or something, find someone in a pink shirt, say thank you, say hi. If something's wrong, just say, hey, I think this could be better. We're always there to listen. We're only going to grow by the feedback we receive from the community.
Very good. Find somebody with a pink shirt. There we go. There you get it. Very good. Christy, last words before we wrap it up?
No, I'm excited for Pride too now. I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun.
You're ready? You're sold up? Yeah, I'm like, I can't wait. This is exciting. Thank you so much for watching Sex Talk with Susan. Until we see you next. Take care. Bye-bye.